Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 122. We're in for such an awesome interview. I know you're just going to love our next guest. Shana Ekedal is a holistic nutrition expert and transformation coach. But one thing we're not going to be talking about today is food. Isn't that right?
That's right.
We're going to be talking about healing beyond food, and I know my listeners can relate because I feel like my listeners are a lot like me. We've tried everything. We've been on every diet. We've been dairy-free and gluten-free and soy-free and, we've been vegan, we've been, paleo, we've been Atkins, we've tried everything. And for some of us, we get to this point where we've swung from one side of the spectrum to the other when it comes to diet, and we still can't find the missing pieces to healing. And this is where we really need to go within and see, well, what's going on? Is there some components that have nothing to do with food that could help heal my body? And that's what we're here to talk about today. I'm so excited to have you here because you have this beautiful story, and I'd love for you to share. Let's start by you sharing your story and what led you to become a holistic nutrition expert and transformation coach.
Yeah, it's quite a story, and I had no idea that I would end up doing the work that I do. I mean, really, some of the best work happens out of our own life experience, and that is certainly my story. And it kind of goes back to when I was 10 years old. I was an only child, and my parents were going through a really painful divorce. I mean, just kind of really difficult for everybody involved. I felt kind of isolated. I didn't have brothers or sisters to talk to about what was going on. And it seemed to drag on for a few years. And unbeknownst to me, I was only 10 years old, I just really started turning to food. I started making mac and cheese all the time and cookies, and I would kind of do it by myself and just sit by the TV and, eat bowl after bowl of mac and cheese and make all the cookies and eat all the cookies. And between my 5th and 6th grade year, I had gained 20 pounds. And if you saw me now, I mean, I'm literally 5'1.5". So then I was really little. So 20 pounds was very noticeable at that age. And it kind of set this stage for feeling not okay in my body. And over the next, my teen years and my 20s, it was really about how to stay looking okay on the outside. And I would do anything to do that. But I wasn't willing to take a look at why I would binge eat or why I would eat all of this food. I didn't understand those connections. So I was doing all kinds of unhealthy stuff. I was, taking diet pills. I was over exercising. I would binge and then I would not eat, for a whole day. And everything to try to just fix the outside, right? We just want to fix the outside and move on in life. And I was doing that, and I call it really running. I was just kind of running from the things I was feeling unknowingly, of course. And I did this, well into my 20s, and I really wanted to make the people in my life happy. And after that real divide in my family, I just took on this role of saying, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make people feel comfortable and feel happy. And so I picked a career that made my family happy, and I got good grades in school because that, made my family happy. And I just was really I call it living other people's lives, living other people's expectations. And all of this emotion, built up from the time I was a child and living other people's expectations and what I was running from, for so many years kind of culminated in my early 30s in just getting sick, physically sick. And I was in the real estate industry. I was financing large apartment buildings and strip centers in Los Angeles. I was working very long hours, commission only, so high stress, clientele that was sometimes difficult, and I was just taking it all on in a big way. I wasn't sleeping well. I was getting colds. I was getting flus all the time. My digestion was horrible. I was dealing, with all kinds of bloating. Certain foods weren't working for me, and it just felt like my body was giving out on me. And I was not married at the time. I didn't have children. There was so much more life that I want to live, and I kept thinking to myself, like, gosh, is my body already breaking down? I'm 30 years old. Like, this is horrible. And the real wake up call happened when I was diagnosed with skin cancer on the bridge of my nose. And it was a tough place to get it because there's not a lot of skin there to do surgery. And I remember when I got the diagnosis thinking to myself, like, wake up, wake up. And I felt like the universe, or whatever you want to call it, was saying to me, look, you're not listening. Therefore, we're going to put this on your face and you're going to have to pay attention. You're going to look at this every day for the rest of your life. And it was really scary. They were actually going to cut up my forehead to take a flap down for the bridge of my nose. And so I was going to have a scar, running down my forehead and then down my nose. And luckily, I convinced them to just try and close it, just on the bridge of my nose, which they ended up being able to do. But it really started getting me thinking about why this was happening. What's going on with my body. And oftentimes we don't realize things until we have a physical ailment going on. To me, that's really a wake up call for a lot of people. Like, hey, okay, I need to start paying attention to this. And so I started asking these doctors, they were all saying to me, you're so young to have this happen. I would sit in waiting rooms, at the dermatologist's office, and people were in their 60s and 70s getting their things cut out of their face. And so I kept saying, well, why is this happening? If I am so young, what do I need to do differently? I really felt like I wanted to help and heal my body, but I had no idea what that looked like. And I kept just not getting answers from these doctors. I mean, I was getting prescriptions, I was getting, half-hearted answers, but nothing that I really could sink my teeth into. And so I left a doctor's office one Friday, I remember, and I just drove home and I was like, I had done a lot of research in college. I was like, well, I'm going to figure this out myself because I'm not getting any good answers here. And so I just started diving into this world of holistic health myself. And I really, was like a guinea pig to some degree, trying all kinds of different stuff. And as I started to shift my diet and understand what the body really needed to heal, I saw, that I wasn't getting sick as much. I saw that I had more energy, that I was sleeping better. All these things started improving, and I started to feel really empowered by that. And then as I continued on, I started to realize these other things, right? How I was living for other people and how I was, doing a career that wasn't really in resonance with who I was, and how I started to see more, right? I started to wake up to different aspects of my life as I started to heal my body and feel better physically. And so I just started looking around my life and saying, there's other puzzle pieces to this healing thing. And I would say to myself, like, oh, I don't want to go to work, or, oh, I hate my job. Like, I would say these things to myself all the time. And yet I was continuing to do it. And at a certain point, as I started to heal, it's like all of it came up for evaluation. I just started looking around and saying, this is not just about food. And this is not just about my body, because before we get to the body and food, there's all kinds of other stuff going on under the surface. There were things I was saying to myself mentally, ways I was looking at life. There were certainly just a sea of emotions, that were stacked up for me, of years of things going on, ever since I was 10 years old. So all of this stuff built up in my life, and I started to get this more global, holistic view of health and where my life, needed to go for me to really live healthy, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually.
Wonderful. I love it. And so when you had these realizations, what did you begin to do to heal? Like once you started to have this awareness open up, what happened next?
Gosh, it's really interesting. And I share this a lot with my clients because when we start to have that awareness and when we start to wake up and say, okay, I want to start putting better stuff in my body, which I really feel like is the access point of even more healing, right? For a lot of people, it starts with like, I'm going to start putting better stuff in my body. Then we start feeling better. We start having more energy. And then from that place, we start looking, in other directions too. I think it's a natural progression. And so I was doing that and I was trying all kinds of different stuff. And really, it was a process of like things would step into my world. It was almost as if I call it like a big roadmap, right? And so I would take one step, and then from that step, more steps would show up. And it would be like, okay, I want to go over here. And then more steps would show up. And so it almost felt like I was being led on a path of different practitioners, different coaches, different methods, and it just seemed to unfold. And the interesting part is that most of the time we want to know what the end result is, right? Like, so before we take a step on a path, we're like, well, where's this path going? Right. And I want to know exactly, how this is going to end. And it really taught me to trust in making the first step, and then more will reveal itself, making the next step and more will reveal itself, and that we never really know where the path is going to end, or it kind of really doesn't ever end, right? We're always here to grow and expand, but not be obsessed with the end result, and yet be fully present in the journey and willing to take the steps as they show up.
That's good. I like that. Just be open to the guidance that's coming your way and to the opportunities. I think opportunities are really important, but we need to be open to them. I think it's funny you're talking about sort of like the gateway. Like you start off with, I think I need to eat better. And then that becomes this gateway for all these other different things that open up. Just like someone goes to take a yoga class or a spin class or something, because they're just like, hey, that sounds interesting. If you see someone takes a yoga class and then like 6 months later they're now a vegan and they meditate and they're going backpacking, or
Right.
they bought an eco car or something, or now now they recycle, or like they all of a sudden go on this, or now they're very spiritual. Someone starts a cycling class and all of a sudden they're like wearing spandex all the time, and and then it just opens up all these other different things. I just think it's funny, or people just join the gym in January and then that leads to like down the road, or you go to there's these they're popping up all over the place, these types of gyms that are CrossFit, right? You join a CrossFit gym and like within a month you are paleo. Like it's just sort of the culture,
Totally.
right? So it's that culture, but you got to be open to the change and see what's happening. So what led you then to want to work with people? Was there an aha moment, or was this just natural progression? What led you to want to work with people and help them transform their life?
Yeah, it was a natural progression because I mean, my journey kind of was initially about a 7-year journey, which nothing needs to take that long, but I tried a lot of things that didn't work, and then I found the things that did. And so along that path, and of course I invested, a ton of money doing that. And I remember thinking, gosh, there's a much easier path once you can look back and know what worked and what didn't. I was kind of testing all the time. But as I started to heal my own body and like shift things in my life, of course, people started to notice this in my world, and they started to say, how'd you do this? And, why are you doing this? And why is it important? And of course, once you learn about holistic health and you learn that, there's a lot of things we can do to empower ourselves to take our health into our own hands, you want to share that. It's a natural gift, and you know how empowering it is for you to do that. So I just think there's a give in that everybody wants to share once they have that awareness. And so I started doing that a little bit with people, and then people just started saying like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I was still doing real estate at the time. I mean, I was just helping people, and it came from a really pure place because once you've suffered or struggled with something, you just don't want anyone else to, and you want to help them on their path so that they don't have to go through what you went through. And I remember thinking, gosh, I can help people and they won't have to invest all the money that I did in the things that didn't work. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so I was like saving them, you know what I mean, from that. I was like, that's helpful. I wish someone would have told me this stuff. And so I just started doing it. And then, the more I did it and the more I helped people, the more I saw the gift in it, and the more I saw how my journey was bringing health to other people, and that my trial and error was of assistance in the world. And so it just came to a point where I was like, I think I'm meant to do this. Like, and even strangely enough, I almost got this feeling like, gosh, I think I was born at this time to do this. Like, I really think it just took me half my life to connect with who I really was and what gifts I had to give to people and to give to the world. And it never really felt like I was giving all of myself fully in my former career. I certainly made great money. I certainly was very successful. I liked the people I worked with, but it just felt like there was a piece of me not present in that. And when I started helping people with their health, I felt like I was using my business sense, my intelligence, my heart, every aspect of myself was being utilized in helping people, my intuition, my energy, all of that. And it felt so good. It felt so right
Mm.
that I got to the point where I was like, I can't do this other thing anymore, right? It doesn't feel good to do only part of me. It feels really good to be fully in my body, fully present to who I am, present to who the person I'm helping is, and to affect a transformation and change in their life.
I love it. I bet you would have been a great real estate agent.
I
I can
was.
tell you because I mean, you think of real estate agents like maybe the good ones would be like the kind of the scammy ones or the ones that could like high pressure sales, and no, the good ones are the ones that are authentic, that really want to that love people and that really care about helping people and that really connect with people, and they're like, and that's what healers do too. You want to connect with someone, you really want the best for them. So that's
Yeah.
I think
And
that's cool.
you know what's really funny is that the things that we're great at and our gifts in the world, we're doing everywhere in life. So when I was a real estate agent, I would be in the car with people and I would be like talking to them about their relationships and their personal life and like all kinds of, I was kind of like a counselor slash real estate agent. I was helping people through these other areas of their life because I just have been a person my whole life where people have come to me and felt like they could tell me the truth, right? And that they could share with me and be open with me. And so all my life, people have showed up and been really open with me and said things like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, like this is weird that I'm telling you this, but they've always felt really open with me. And so it's like looking back on it, I was doing a lot of what I do now in real estate. And when I would negotiate contracts with people, I would be able to sense out where both people were at emotionally and what they needed to feel safe in the transaction, right?
Mhm.
So I was using my intuition to guide people to a win-win situation
Mhm.
and give them what they needed. And so I do that with my clients now. I use my intuition to help them see things about themselves that they're not seeing so that they can release that from their life. They can
Mm.
release that energy. So it's funny that you say that because, yes, I mean, we're always, if you look over your life, like you are kind of doing your purpose in all these different
Yeah.
ways, maybe not even in the career you want to be in, but you're finding outlets for it because it's who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm taking this health coaching program through IIN, and I mentioned it a few times on the show, and I got a ton of my listeners contacting me, emailing me, and they're all in different sort of careers, and they're all like, "Man, I'd love to be a health coach. I tell my coworkers what to eat all the time. I think this is what I should do." It's just so funny that well, when you're a healer, you might be like a sales manager, and then but you end up doing the thing you love doing the most, which is helping people. I think that's so funny. When you think about real estate, that is such a huge transition in someone's life, moving or selling a house or buying a house, and so they're really shaken up, and it was so great that you could help them, because that's a time of a lot of vulnerability in someone's life. So that's really cool that you have those years and years of counseling experience, because it seems that it just comes very naturally to you. I'd like to touch on a point that you brought up earlier, which is that you've been through for 7 years a lot of stuff that didn't work and some stuff that really did, and you held on to all the tools that really did work. Can you tell us some of the stuff you did that didn't work?
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely certain ways of call them like diets or programs or things that for me didn't work. And I'll tell you, it's not that I want to be clear, like it's not that they don't work, period. Like I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that different people are built different ways, right? Both genetically and also like mentally and emotionally. And so there are different reasons why people do what they do. And so to go on, a diet or a meal plan or a program when the truth for you about food is that you've got a lot of emotional stuff going on and you are not present to it, or you don't want to feel your feelings, or you are scared of it, and yet you're trying to kind of go over the top with doing some healthy eating, that's never going to work for the long term, because the reason why you eat has nothing to do with food. So there's programs, it's like that's what I do with people is I'm very specific and personalized with people that I work with, doing private coaching, where I can see what's going on for them under the surface, right? And then I can tailor what they need that's going to work for them. And so it's really like looking at us, we're all individuals. We're all, unique, right? Both genetically, emotionally, mentally, the things we've gone through in our life. And so when I went on this journey, the things that weren't working were the stuff that I didn't need. You know what I mean? There were a certain set of circumstances that I needed to work through, and if they weren't going to help me, if something wasn't going to help me work through that, then it wasn't going to work for me. And so we have to get to the truth of what's going on under the surface. And what I say to people is we've got all kinds of stuff that we're unconscious about within ourselves. And this is me too. Right? I want to be clear. It's like nobody is like reached the state of perfection where they know themselves fully, right? There are the way the human psyche is built and the human body is built, there are things we cannot see about ourselves. And everybody, in my opinion, should have a coach or a healer or someone always guiding them to what they can't see, because those are our blocks. When we can't see it, we can't do anything about it. The second I can, what I call bringing it from the back around to the front so that you can identify what's really going on for you under the surface, it starts to dissipate the second you start to see it. The energy of it can't stay in place if you can identify it. And so that to me is the most powerful work in healing, is to be able to see what we can't see. And we need help to do that. We can't do that ourselves. And those people that, people that are, coaching or healers, they always have their own coaches and healers because they know that, right? That we can't, we can't accurately see ourselves by ourselves. And I think that this is a beautiful thing, because I think that it makes us connected with other people. If we could literally just sustain on an island by ourselves, seeing ourselves fully, there's not a reason to connect. But because we need each other in so many different ways, it allows us to build that relationship and to build that trust and to have the human connection that we all, deeply desire.
Absolutely. And it's good to have friends and family in our life to help us. But they have a bias, or they have an agenda. Like, let's say, for example, you had the amazing opportunity to go abroad and travel abroad, and maybe there's a career out there, or maybe you had a scholarship or something. But it meant you had to leave, right? Of course, your friends and family who didn't want you to go for their own reasons wouldn't encourage you, right? And so sometimes it's hard. It kind of muddies the water when we're trying to bounce things off of friends and family because they have their own agenda, and it might be just out of love, right?
Yeah.
And you should always default to your friends and family have their agenda about you or around you out of love, because it's so funny how many times people will be like, my mom did this to me, and I'm like, it's because she loved you. Like, people
Yeah.
take it like to mean that their mom did that because they were malicious. I'm like, no, she did it because she was afraid and she loves you. And when you start to like just completely re-examine your childhood, but through a love filter, just be like, every single, even if your parent yelled at you, they did it because they were scared, because they love you and they were so afraid and they didn't know how to protect you, right? And so if you just, not that it's the truth, but if you filter your entire childhood and every traumatic experience from a filter of love, your parents loved you and they just didn't know how to do this in a different way, because we all are doing the best we can with the resources we have. And those in your life are just doing the best they can at that moment with all the resources they have. And your parents love you, right? And so we go back and we look at all these times and we go, oh my God, my mom, she did this like really crazy thing, or she yelled at me, or she threw something. And I always thought she, hated me. And now I'm realizing she was just lonely and afraid. And really, she just loved me. Right. And so we can go back and examine and come from love. But sometimes we need to have someone who doesn't have any skin in the game. We
Yeah.
need to have someone in our life who's just our advocate, who really it couldn't give two hoots whether you go to Mars or not. They just are there for you to help you be help be that mirror so that you can bounce things off of, you can gain clarity, and ultimately you can make the decisions, and they'll empower you to make the decisions that are best for you. And that's why I love coaches, health coaches, life coaches. I love coaches because it's almost like therapy. They're there for you, but they're not. They don't have an agenda, and they just want they've got a lot of tools to help you succeed. How in your experience on the 7 years that you went through this personal transformation, and then turned it into now your full time career and helping people. What were some of the tools that you discovered that really worked for you?
Yeah, I'll share some of those, and I'll share them back to what you're talking about with family and friends. So I'll share them through that conversation too. So basically, there's a lot of things that everything you're saying is absolutely true, and there are ties in family, like, and I call them energetic ties. I mean, there are patterns in family systems that run generations. So it could be things like alcoholism, it could be things like abuse, it could be things like we all talk loud, right? It could be things like nobody listens to each other, right? And these are things that we are a soul born into a body that comes into some sort of family system, and we need to survive. And we look around and we say, how do we survive in this environment, right? And we start integrating, right, what the rules are, the unspoken rules of this system. Now, where this really gets difficult for people is that sometimes who you are as a person at the deepest level is not of resonance with the people that raised you. So maybe you're a scientist born in a family of artists, right? Maybe you're an intellectual, like born into a family of musicians. And so it can be very difficult for people to feel loved and accepted and validated in that system that's saying, gosh, why do you like that? Who does that? We don't do that, And you're thinking, but I do, like, I love this, right? And so a lot of people develop a lot of stuff, and through the work that I do, I'm kind of clearing out this old energy, right? Because this can be a lot of reasons why people drink or why people eat, right? They have never really stepped into and felt okay with who they really are. And they feel like if they do, they're going to completely either lose their family or invalidate everything that their family believes. And so the choice really becomes, do I integrate with what's not really me once I discover what is really me? Or do I risk, you know what I mean? Feeling distant from my family, or having them not like me or separate, which is people's
Right.
biggest fear, right? In the whole world, is that the people that you grew up with are going to like shun you. I mean, that fear is like right up there at the top, right? With fear of failure, fear of,
Right.
all these big fears.
Right.
And
And it's
so,
it's it being rejected from the tribe equals death.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And people feel that. And so what I want to send this message that's so important is, we are not living in an either or. Doesn't mean you can either be yourself and invalidate everybody else and not have them in your life, or you have to fully integrate with something that's not you. Just like you were saying with coaches, there's a whole toolbox of tools. And what I like to open people up to is the human mind wants to say it has to be black or white, has to be this or that. Like, I got fired from my job, I have to get this job or it's going to be no job, right? And the truth is, there's a world of infinite possibility, right? So there's, in that infinite possibility with your family system, the infinite possibility is that you can be who you are and still be loved and accepted in your family, that you can learn to communicate in a way that's very effective, that gets them on board with who you are, right? Because when we really lock into who we are and we start feeling free to live that in the world, you will find that addictive patterns start to fall away from that alone, right? That we start to clear out this old energy of feeling sad or frustrated or mad, like you were saying, mad at my mom for this or mad at my dad for that. People live their whole lives holding on to that stuff. And that's a big price to pay. And that negative energy that is emotion. Emotion is energy. It needs to move. Like, we're born to cry when we feel sad. We need to cry, right? When we feel angry, we need to be angry. It's like, if you look at a toddler, they are masters at this, right? They just feel whatever they feel fully. So you're in a grocery store and your toddler gets upset, they throw themselves on the ground right then and there. They freak out, you know what I mean? And then they're done. They jump up and they're like, "Hey, let's go," and you're like, "What just happened in the grocery store?" But they don't stuff and store emotion. But as we get older, we learn to do that. Our parents say, "Don't cry, don't feel this, don't do that, not here." And we start going, "Oh, okay, we can't feel now." Or it's not, "I can't cry in church. I can't do this," right? And we start choosing when we can feel things. So over our lifetime, we store all this emotion about stuff that's happened. And instead of feeling that, we eat, we drink, right? We become a sex addict. We become a shopping addict. We do all kinds of behaviors to not feel this stuff. And really, I had developed a method so that we don't have to re-experience the pain, because that's what we're afraid of. We don't want to go through those painful times. That energy just needs to be released, right? And so I developed a method to release that energy so people can be free of it, which feels like cleaning out your closet. It feels like you lost 50 pounds of like old stuff, so that you can be free to be and not be at the mercy of cravings and not be at the mercy of all this other stuff going on. And so that's the power in this work. And that's why I say it's beyond food, right?
Mm.
Because we don't realize those driving factors that are driving us to the food, driving us to the alcohol, driving us to our cravings. So I help people like stop cravings in 1 to 2 weeks. Done. They don't. There's no deprivation like, "Oh, I can't have chocolate," or, "Oh, I can't have this." They're like, my clients are like, "This is a trip. Like, I don't even want it. I don't even
Mhm.
care about it anymore. It's just
Mhm.
like whatever. I mean, chocolate could be Brussels sprouts for all I know. So that's the power of this work, of really getting into the root cause, right? And cleaning out that old stuff so we can be fully present in our life and enjoy it.
So let's get into some techniques. Teach us some things so that our listeners can have an experience of success with you today.
Yeah. So some of the things, I mean, I say it always begins with just looking, right? So if you've been listening to this whole podcast, you're starting to probably self identify things in your own life, right? You're starting to think about, like, "Oh, yeah, there was that thing that happened when I was 6. There was that stuff that went on with my parents when I was 20, right?" So many times when I first sit with a client, I have them go back and start to talk to me about, what are the best things in your life that have gone on? Like, let's say this is something everybody can do. You can get out a piece of paper, schedule out maybe an hour of your time and go through your life and say, "Okay, from age 0 to 10, what were my happiest moments that I can remember?" Obviously, people don't remember back to 0, but your first memories to age 10, what are the happiest things that have happened? What are the saddest things that I can remember that happened? And pick 10 things. 10, 10 total, like 5, that might have been the happiest, 5 that might have been the most tragic or sad. And when you go back to 0 to 10, like, a lot of times people want to say, that nothing tragic happened, like, I didn't really have anything tragic happen in my life. And I want to say that the littlest things to a 5-year-old are tragic. So let's say the little boy on the playground said, "You're fat," right? That is just as tragic as abuse. So it's not judging what it is, it's saying, what do you remember that really sunk in for you as an experience? Because we can make all kinds of decisions about that one event at 5 years old that are running our life up until our 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. So it's looking without judgment and saying, what are the things I really remember? And then once you do 0 to 10, go from 10 to 20, right? 20 to 30, however your age is, go in 10-year increments and write these things down, because these are like the golden nuggets of realizing like how your personality and psyche was built, and they also are clues to some of the things that might be running the show from the background. So the first step is really getting aware, right? Going back, thinking about these things. And like I said with my clients, until I jog their memory, oftentimes they've forgotten about this stuff. It's not in their forefront of their mind because they're living life, doing their thing now. So that's the first step. And then once you identify those things, you really want to see if there there are themes, right? So, have you had the theme of loss in your life over and over again? Have you had the theme of people betraying you over and over again? Have you had the theme of, negative thinking, like the way you saw yourself? Have you had the theme of, there are people showing up in my life all the time telling me I'm not good enough, telling me I don't add up, right? So some people go back in their life and say, man, I have had teacher after teacher tell me I'm not good enough. My dad told me I wasn't good enough. I've had a boyfriend that thought I wasn't good enough. We'll start to see these themes, right, that show up. And those themes are exactly where your power is hidden, right? So like when I release, basically I work with people on releasing these themes. So when I release a theme, let's say if I'm not good enough, that has shown up all over someone's life, you now have a clean slate that you're not going to repeat that pattern. You're not going to have people coming back into your life telling you you're not good enough, because we are literally attracting into our I call it our movie screen. Like when we look around our life at the people in our life and the circumstances in our life, we are attracting those into our life based on who we're being. So if I've got this unconscious belief that I'm not good enough, sure enough, all these people are going to show up to reflect that belief back to me. So when we clear those, right, new people start showing up, right? You'll have new people showing up with a different reflection of who you are. So this is why I tell people, like, it is about taking radical responsibility for who you are, because what shows up, most people are going, oh, he's a jerk, she's a jerk. If my mom wasn't like that, life would be better. If my husband didn't do this, I'd be happy. If my kids weren't such a problem, I would be, in a good place. And we're giving all of that energy and power out to all these other people. If you want your movie screen to shift, you've got to shift you, right? So it all starts with us. And this is exactly the first couple steps. Like after you've identified maybe some of the themes, which you might not see all of them, right? Because we can't always see. I would definitely find somebody who can help you work through, right? And release some of these themes in your life. Because when we become present to them, when we become aware of them, it becomes like, let's get these out, right? You start feeling like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this dance anymore in my life. And so it becomes very empowering to release stuff that we've been carrying around for decades, most of us.
I love it. I love what you're saying. I would say that when we give away our power, when we blame others, it is we're left with no power to change our life, because what we're saying is, I'm at the effect of all these other people doing something to me. So now we've set up our life so that we're a victim, and victims have no power. Like that. I mean, that is the mindset, right? And so we need to go, okay, instead of pointing the finger at everyone else and going, that's the reason why I'm sad, that's the reason why I'm angry, that's the reason why I can't have what I want, then we turn around and or the economy, or the political climate, or just you name it. Like everyone can pick something and say, that's why I can't have XYZ, or that's why I'm being held back, right? And our sex, our race, our age, and I'm not saying that sexism or racism or ageism doesn't exist. I'm saying that, are you going to let yourself not have power in your life because of it? Or are you going to step up and say, I'm the one that dictates my life. It's my life. And so now if I want to go get that, screw obstacles. It's my life. And that's the mentality, the mindset we have got to jump into. And I love how you're saying this, these steps, this journaling, because then it can kind of pull the blinders off and let you see the pattern that you have in your life, that you're keep creating this little victim mentality over here of, I'm not good enough, or people abuse me, or people leave me, or I can't be loved. And those are when we create a belief system when we're like 5, like you said, we will then we're like heat-seeking missiles looking for, it's actually called the reticular activating system in the unconscious mind. We look for evidence to prove we're right. So if you believe you're not loved, you will negate instances in your memory where you've been loved, and you will only remember and look for where you haven't been loved. Now, if you believe you're smart, it works that way too. Your reticular activating system will remember all the times you got an A+, all the times, because you have a belief system. So we always will look for evidence to support our belief system. And so what you're doing by this exercise is helping people to discover what their unconscious belief system is. And then that's now they've got something to work with, and they got to go to a really good coach like you to release and figure out how to resolve and reprogram themselves.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So people like so I will sometimes when I'm working with clients, they're like, "But I want to talk about the food." I'm like, "But the food is going to totally change without you doing a thing if you look at this." Right. So I have a client, like I'll give you a couple examples. So I have a client, and she wanted to create a program. She actually has a very thriving business. She wanted to create this program, and she for a year hadn't created the program. And she was like, I feel like there's like stuck energy or bad energy, or I'm not like, why am I not doing this? Right. And it all went back to a decision she made in childhood, right? And once she was able to see that decision, and then mind you, when you make a decision about yourself, it doesn't just show up like you'll have one area of your life where it's bothering you, like maybe you're overeating, right? And so it's bothering you with your weight. But every single time it shows up in your work, it shows up in your relationships, it's everywhere, right? So once she saw this decision and how it was showing up in her career, how it was showing up in personal relationship, how it was showing up all over her life, and we were able to release that, the program got built in 3 months, like this massive program. It was like, boom, done,
Mhm.
right? I had another client who was like a performer. And the second she got back to the decision that she made that was standing in her way, her career just took off without trying, right? So I have people like with food who have struggled with cravings their whole life. And they've told me, Shauna, like no one's been able to help me. I don't think you're going to be able to help me. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just like throw caution to the wind and just like let go of that belief system for a second, right? And let's do the real work. And people that like literally couldn't not eat chocolate every day all of a sudden are like, I don't care if I'm at a party and everybody's eating chocolate. I don't even want it. And so, this idea that we have to struggle and suffer to eat well, right? That I'm going to go on a diet and I'm going to try really hard. And when that diet's over, I'm going to go eat everything I couldn't eat on the diet because it's over, right? Then I'm going to gain the weight back and then I'm going to go on another diet, right? We have this unrealistic, and we're marketed to in this way, right? This is part of the problem with this industry about getting healthy and weight loss is people want to market these programs and go on a diet and then go off the diet. Go on a diet, go off the diet. Like none of that's going to work. That just creates more bad feelings, that creates more water under the bridge where we feel like we can't be successful. The way to be successful long term is to do the real inner work, because when you get to the core, right, you're not going to struggle and suffer again, and you're not going to feel deprived. So, if you're willing to take a look at some of this stuff, you really buy yourself a life of freedom going forward, right? You make an investment in yourself and your life for a very short period of time where you get monstrous results that last, right? Isn't that what we all want? Like, we don't want to end up going on diets like forever or trying to heal our body for, years and years on end. We want to get the right tools and get the job done.
Awesome. I love it. Now the so let's say they've done this whole thing and they've got this picture and maybe they begin to see the pattern. What steps can they take in their life after they've done all this journaling?
Yeah, for some people, some of the patterns, like you'll see them really quickly, and you can just start taking action contrary to what you've done. So let's say you have maybe a difficult relationship with family members or maybe your parents or something like that, and let's say you're getting in arguments all the time, and you see how they engage you in a negative way, right? Or they judge you or they trigger you to engage with them in an argumentative type of situation, which all that does is just pull us down, right? I like to say it like lowers your energy frequency. You just kind of feel small and you feel withered, right? If you were a flower, you don't feel bright and empowered and beautiful when those things are going on. And so you might feel small when that happens. So maybe you start to see that pattern and you see how in your life when you start to grow, they trigger that in you to like make sure that you shrink, to make sure that they're comfortable with where you're living, right? Because everybody wants to be comfortable with the people in their life. When someone starts to grow and expand, it can scare the people in their life. And I have a way of making this possible that's not painful, right? Helping people that are in like marriages or relationships grow and not have their partner feel threatened. But maybe this is going on, and so maybe you decide, I'm not going to react the same way I've always reacted. Right? When
Mm.
they start in on me and they start doing their song and dance, which is really, it's a song and dance, right? If you look back at the patterns in your family system or the patterns that you have, when you get triggered, you probably do the similar thing again and again, right? You either lash back, or you get angry, or you start crying, or you run away and say, I'm not going to talk to you, right? We all have our thing that we do. And so it's being present to that and saying, I'm not going to do that. When they start yelling at me, or when they start putting me down, or whatever goes on, I'm gonna just say, you know what, I love you. I love you. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna like engage with you like this. And, let's talk when you're not so angry. Or if you do anything different, right? Anything different than what you normally do, the relationship will shift. It has to. Right.
Mhm.
So if
Mhm.
one person changes, the relationship changes. So you can start to look at some of these patterns and start to play with, how can I be different? Right. Because again, your mom's not going to change, your dad's not going to change, your husband, your partner, your friends, your coworkers, your boss, right? They're going to be them on your screen in front of you. The way that anything shifts is by you being different in the situation, right? Then they can't do, it's like if you're used to yelling at someone and they're yelling back at you all the time, but all of a sudden you don't yell anymore, that person's only going to yell for so long before they feel ridiculous. Right? If you're just standing there, like it's not going to happen. So they'll just all of a sudden be like, why aren't you yelling too? Like, aren't you going to engage with me like this? So this is empowering, right? Realizing that we have the power to shift the dynamics in our life. And certainly if this seems exciting for you, then you'll want to dive deeper into having someone continue to help you like take this energy out of your life.
I love it. And speaking of which, so how do we work with you? Tell us about your services and what it looks like to work with you. Now you have this amazing live show. You're host of Be Well Live. Tell us about that too.
Yeah, so it's a Facebook Live show, and I basically have leaders in the holistic health, wellness, even personal development arena. So it's not just food, the body, health. It really is expanded out to anything that's going to help us live more conscious, be more aware. We do it once a week, typically on Wednesday nights at 5 o'clock Pacific, and it's hosted right on my Facebook timeline, which you can find. It's Shana, Shana. It's my maiden name, Klisanin, Klisanin, and my last name, Ekedal, Ekedal. So you can friend me there and you'll get, notifications. We're always announcing who's coming up. And we actually have it tonight. And oh, you don't want to announce that, huh? Because it's not going to be tonight. Yeah. So sorry. Yeah.
Well, it
So
might be.
it might be.
You
I don't know
should
if you do
just
it on a
go you should
Wednesday.
just go to Facebook and it might be tonight.
Yeah, might be tonight. Who knows? Maybe you're going to release this on a Wednesday. But yeah, so it is Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, and it's a lot of fun. You can ask your own questions, so you get to interact, and we put your questions up on the screen, and it's lots of good information. I'm always learning stuff every time I'm on with new guests, and then yeah, and it's really cool too. We give away a bunch of fun prizes, so the guests will give away like their books or their programs, or I'll do giveaways with my stuff too, for everybody that shares the feed. So it's just all about giving. It's all about sharing with the people that we love so that we all can get healthier. I'm a big proponent of how can we help other people. And back to when I was healing myself, if people wouldn't have shared stuff online, I would have never known that there was another way. I would have never known that holistic health existed. I learned about it myself from other people being willing to share. And so I'm a huge proponent of, just sharing this information. You never know who needs it at what time in their life, and how it's going to, change the course of their life and change their future. So yeah, so we'd love to have you join us.
Awesome. And of course, all the links to everything that Shauna does is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast. So you can definitely check that out and check out her website and her blog, which has so many great tips and tricks, and then your services. So if someone wants to work with you one on one, you've got frequency cleansing and frequency family, and you do private coaching, and then you do speaking events. I think you'd be a great speaker for a corporate setting. share with us a bit about what it looks like to work with you.
Yeah, so the frequency cleanse is a 30-day, it's really mind, body, soul cleanse. So it's looking at a lot of the stuff we've talked about, the emotional components, the mental components. The frequency cleanse does go into food. It does, give you tons of recipes. And I don't do meal plans. I more do parameters of food, and I teach you how to choose so that you start using your own choosing muscle. And this is part of that developing your own and knowing for your brain to know that you're doing it yourself so that you're going to do it for the long term. You're not going to follow Shauna's plan. You're going to develop your own within some parameters. So it's a really cool program. That you can find under the services page at my website, which is shanaekedal.com. And there's also a group, we meet once a month. We are a family, right? And what I find in this work is that when people start kind of raising their energy, which that's what the word frequency is about. It's not about doing things over and over again all the time, frequently. It's about raising the energy in your life, right? It's like, let's say you're listening to a radio station, which is a frequency, and you're listening to talk radio. And let's say you change that radio station to rock and roll music, right? It's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different feeling when you're listening to those two different things. And so that's what I consider my work, is really changing the energy in your life, the energy that you bring to every area of your life, and cleaning out that old, yucky, boring stuff and opening up to something that is more vibrant, more beautiful, and more connected to who you really are. And so the 30-day program does that. We have a group of women that get together every month in a family kind of environment. We do like a group call, we do mantras, we focus on different things each month. And so that's awesome. That's also in the services section. And then a lot of people coach with me privately. So I've got a big practice. I have an in-person practice in Laguna Niguel, California. I also coach people all around the United States by Skype and by phone. And it's all kinds of people. So everything from moms to, business owners to, I've coached Broadway actresses, and I've coached people, in movies. And so everything in between, all kinds of people from all over the country who just want to really connect with who they are, who want to live healthier and happier lives, who want to clean out their closet of this old stuff so that they can, shine in all areas of their life. And you can find out more about that on my website under private coaching, which is under the services tab. If you feel like that might be a fit for you, you can fill out the form there, and we'll send you an email with more information about private coaching and how that all works.
Fantastic. I love it. Now, we are also an international show. You said you work with those in the States, but would you work with those outside of the States?
Absolutely. I do have international clients, and I do have clients that travel quite often and are international. So we do a lot of that on Skype as well.
Cool, excellent. And then tell us a bit about this, the inner circle, and what people get out of being part of your inner circle.
Yeah, so we just changed the name of it to the Soul Frequency VIP from the Frequency family. So you'll see that change on the website, and that's in alignment with the book that I'm going to have that's coming out this year. I just wrote a
Yay!
book, yes, at the end of the year, that really talks a lot about how, and the book talks. It doesn't go into specifics on food. The Frequency cleanse goes into the specifics on food, but it goes into some even deeper stuff about how we can use the energy, the emotions, the way we think to create what we want instead of creating what we don't want, how we can create what we want. And the journey of a lot of what we've been talking about, of really getting to the root of why we do what we do so we can live more powerfully in the world. And so that we'll be announcing more of that. If you are on my website and you want to put your name and email in, you'll get a lot more information, in the coming months about the book coming out and a lot of stuff we're doing around the book. We'll also give you awesome recipes and cool things, and some guided meditations, which is really cool. So, but we in the group, I developed the group because when I would work with people, they would feel this incredible positive energy in their life, right? And they start expanding in these really big ways. And then sometimes they'd have other people that they'd go back into their life, and they'd have other people that weren't so positive around them, right? And they'd start to feel this like, oh, I was in this like really great state when I was with you all the time. And now, like, people are not always in the greatest places in our life. And when people aren't in a great place, they're not really excited for you to be in a great place. And so I really started teaching people about aligning with people, right? How important it is that what we hang around, we become. Like, if your parents used to tell you that, it is true, right? If we start vibing with really great people that are going places in the world, we're just going to naturally feel like that's normal. If we start vibing with people that are not feeling great in their lives, then we're going to tend to like slide to align with them. So I created the group to be a place where, women could come together and could interact and start with a common understanding of this work, right? Who have been through this and who have started to create amazing things in their life and heal their bodies, so that they could all start to befriend each other, right? And that they could even, talk about each other's businesses, or talk about, moms could come together and say how they're implementing some of this information and how they're raising their children. I mean, and so there's some amazing friendships that have happened in this group of women, but we all need to be supported. And that was the intention of making this ongoing group, is kind of like an online hub and place where we can come together to live healthy all the way around.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I'd love you to wrap up this interview by sharing a challenge for our listeners. Could you challenge us? Give us something that we can do now and for the next 7 days to improve an area of our life.
Yeah, so when you do that inventory for awareness, I just challenge you guys to really, the areas where you feel disempowered, where you feel like you're not understood, or you feel like people don't listen to you, or feel like it's argumentative or whatever, to do something different. Right? To show up differently to those conversations, or to show up differently to the difficult people in your life, and just try anything different, right? It can be anything, but see what happens. See how those people react when you show up in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, I'd say smile at them, take a deep breath, and say you love them, no matter what.
Totally, totally. Just be love, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's how mad can people get at that, right? How annoyed can they get?
Yeah,
So
just
that's
keep doing that.
awesome.
Yeah, if someone cuts you off and you just roll down your window and say, I love you, and it'll
Send
just
them
like freak
love.
them out. Yeah, it's just like, this is actually the thing I'm working on is de-escalating situations instead of being reactive in situations. So I have to like, catch myself before the reptilian brain takes over, and take a deep breath and pause, and then just come from love and work at de-escalating the situation. And it is work, because I'm going against that fight or flight, reaction to, oh, they said that, now that mean I'm making that mean they said this, and and then I want to be right. And but the problem is, we can either be right or happy.
Yeah, it's true. And you can use your breath with that. So when you're in a upset state or a stressed state, you're not breathing. It's not possible. You're not deep breathing. So if you can remember, like, whatever happens, if you can just take the deepest breath, like, just take in as much oxygen as you can and hold it for 5 seconds and breathe out, it's going to completely physiologically change your state. Right. So if you get caught in a stressful moment, just try it. If you can remember, just try to take the deepest breath you can, because chances are you're gonna have a different reaction after that than you would have if you just were holding on.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's been wonderful having you on the show. Please come back on the show to promote your book when it comes out.
I would absolutely love to. Thank you so much.
Enjoy what you heard today on your episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Did something move you, inspire you? Did you get great information that's going to change your life? Awesome. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to help you gain your health back. Please turn around and share this. If this is something that's helped you in any way, share this with those you love. Love the Learn True Health podcast and want to support us? Awesome. You can go to takeyoursupplements.com and you can support us that way. You'll get access to amazing supplements that are just really great quality for a great price. And there'll be someone on the other end of the line to help you pick out your supplements that are right for you. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Or join our membership, learntruehealth.com/join. That's another great way to support our podcast, support our movement, and you'll be supporting yourself gain more information, wonderful videos, wonderful trainings, and you'll also be able to share those with those you love as well. So go to learntruehealth.com/join. Want something fun for free? Go to learntruehealth.com, and right there on the front page, you'll see where you can get our free cookbook. I spent a lot of time making it, and it was so much fun. It's really delicious, healthy recipes. And you can also get our 7-day doctor course. Right there, it's 7 days of naturopathic videos sent right to your inbox, and you can learn from top naturopaths on how to gain health naturally. So that's takeyoursupplements.com for wonderful supplements. learntruehealth.com/join to join our awesome membership, which is only open for a limited time. You can get our free healthy cookbook, and you can also get for free 7 days of wonderful naturopathic videos sent to you. Just go to learntruehealth.com and you'll see it right there on the front page. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing and helping others. Let's spread this information and turn this ripple into a tidal wave.